Hi everyone, good evening. Today we are back with another Android Jam session 2. In this session, we are going to talk about a lot of things, including navigation and layouts. I am Vishesh Tripathi, the Android co-lead of GDSC VIT Bhopal. Over to you, Dhruv.
And my name is Dhruv, and I am the Android lead and also the facilitator for the Android Study Jams. Now we can start. You can share the screen, and we can
Yeah, I would
start.
just share my screen and back in team mode. Yeah, I hope the screen is visible. Yeah. So, yeah, today's agenda is talking about the layouts and navigation. And Dhruv, can you just introduce them with what are Android study labs?
Okay. So basically, Android study jams are nothing but live sessions, workshops like we are carrying out right now to help everyone get started with their Android app development journey. And in this journey, we are helping everyone by taking each sessions. In first session, we saw how you can make your first interactive app, and in the second session, now we will be seeing about material design, intents, and layouts, and many other cool things.
Yeah.
Now
So
go
coming
on
to
to the next
the
slide.
developer profile. Yeah.
Yeah, so now basically the course which we are covering in Android Study Jams is nothing but the Android Basics in Kotlin course, which is given by Google itself. And we recommend and urge you guys to also now go on to now start completing this course and earn badges throughout the journey. And more to know more about this course, you can go on to the session 1 and start getting to know what how to proceed with the session. Another thing to note is to collect the badges throughout the course completion, you need to create your Google Developer Profile. We have talked about creating Google Developer Profile, and even we have a video on it on our YouTube channel of GDSC VIT Bhopal, so you can look into that. Can
Now
we get to
coming
the
to
next
the
slide?
now talking about prerequisites. So
So
yeah, Dhruv, carry on.
So basically, the prerequisites are knowing about basic of Kotlin, like we studied, and knowing about the layouts, the XML part, and talking about another thing is like having a good internet connection, Android Studio, and getting basically the basic stuff.
Yeah. Thank you, Dhruv. So let's get started with material design. So if you have watched our previous videos on Android development, basically when we talked about Android 12, Android 12 is the most recent release of Android APIs in 2021. So material plays a very big role whenever it comes to any of the operating system that has Androids installed in it. So material is nothing but a malleable set of guidelines, components, and tools that promote best practices in user interface design. All the things that you see on your phone is that either it's stock Android or an available Android application. Material, which is built on an open source code, simplifies collaboration between all the designers and enables teams to create beautiful design products. That's material design. Now, material design latest kit is Material 3 design. Now, what is Material 3 design? So, Material 3 design is nothing new but Material U, a revolution in the world of material design. Now let's talk about the guidelines. So coming to the guidelines of material design, you need to create your own material themes to make your product stand out. You cannot copy someone's material theme and expect your application to perform better. Material theming, which simplifies the process of customizing your products and using components which are the building blocks and that make a product usable and functional. So I would give you a small example. Suppose you are installing an application in your smartphone from Google Play Store. Now, after installing the application, you the first thing that you would see is the user interface. That is the UI part. Hence, the UI part is a very important part of an Android application, which needs to be maintained by material components. So, usability and performance guideline explain how to ensure that your app is usable by all the users. Platform guidelines assist you in making specific decisions. So Material Design 3, that is Google's most expressive and adaptable design system to date. Now, if I talk about how you can connect to your users, the best thing about Material U is connecting the theming applications. You can see the icon connectivity to your particular theme is the best part, where you can connect to your users. You are using the same theme as your users are using, and that is Material U, that is Material Design 3 all about, making personal device feel more personal. So the first user, first of all, if you want to see this Material 3 design, I would recommend you to use Android 12 in either of your partner device or your own customable ROM. Now, if you look at material design best practices, I would recommend you to go on these links. These links would be available in the chat box right now, and these links are take you to websites like Material U and Material Design 3 website, where you can explore in detail how Google works on new material, and from there you can take some inspiration for your applications and your notes. Now, Material IO, which is the very starting of everything. When Google start building material designs, it didn't start from the very design 2, design 3. It started from the very basic components. And Material IO website is the reason where why all the things exist today. Now, design sprints. When we would talk about solution challenge in detail in the coming months, you would get to know why design sprints are really important. When you're building an application from the base, you need to look at the design, what user wants. You don't want to build what you like, but what your users like. Hence, you conduct design sprints in which you see what your user wants from the application. Design sprints are taken using personas, or they can even be taken using personal choices. Now, coming to the next part, this is development. Obviously, after you are done with particular designs, you need some tools like font, themes, icons. All these are available on Material Design Develop website. Now, if you're fond of reading other people experience who are into UI and UX, that is user interface and user experience, I would recommend you to go to this website of Design, that is blog website, and explore some articles and read about people's experience there. Now let's talk about layouts in Android development. We have talked a lot about material design for now. So learning about layouts, material design guidelines, and best practices for UI development is the best way to improve your app's user interface. While you are learning this course, you must be seeing that we are building something like this. In the front end is the XML part, where you are conducting everything, you are making everything using material design, layouts, and in the backend part, Kotlin is playing the game. It is connecting both the things to make sure application gives the best to the user. So the structure of a user interface of our app, such as an activity, is defined by a layout. If you have studied some basic English syntax also, you must be knowing what a layout means. The layouts element are all built using a hierarchical view and view group objects. Now suppose I'm building an application of simple calculation. That is, I take two inputs from user, that is A and B, and I add both of them. And below that is a button on which it is written add. So how would you make this design? You would make a layout something like this, taking input from user number one, taking another input from user number two, and finally a button in which it is written add. And in the number four, you would give the output to the user. So this is how the whole layout works. So a view group, on the other hand, is an invisible container that defines the layout structure for view and other view objects, such as illustrated in this figure. You can see there is a view group. Inside this, there are three sub branches: view group, view, and view. Inside view group, there are other three sub branches. So this is how things keep going in a tree order. Now, coming to Android layout, the arrangements of elements on a page is referred to as layout. So Android layout is taken from nothing from Android Jetpack. Now, if you whenever you listen from me Android Jetpack, you must be thinking of about Compose. But this is the typical Android thing which has been in existence from past 15 years. These elements are most likely images, text, or styles. These are the features of Android Jetpack. That is the part where Compose played. They define the structure of the Android user interface in that app, similar to how an activity is defined. You can think something like that. There's an image of a dog in an application and description about it, and there is another button that is telling you next. Now, these are all part of a layout. These are all part as referred as a part of that particular layout. you are defining images, you are defining text, and you are defining the style in which they exist. So, views and view groups are used to construct all the elements in the layout. These layouts can include weights such as buttons, labels, text boxes, and many other things. Now, if you look at this example which I have displayed here, a lot of things have been mentioned here. You need to look at the width, that whatever the layout you are defining, what is the width of that particular layout, what is the height, what is the weight, what is the background. Now, this is not something very typical, but you are simply defining the background color. Now, gravity and orientation. So it's really simple. If you want to see everything that is present inside this Android, you need to go to the library and see. There are, I guess, more than 30 to 40 features present. Now let's move forward and see the types of Android layouts. I'm not telling you all the layouts, but some famous layouts. That is linear layout, relative layout, constant layout, the table layout, and also frame layout and absolute layout. You don't need to study everything in detail, but once you get familiar with even one layout, you would get an idea that how other layouts can work out. Now, coming to the type of Android layouts, you can see these are all the parts of that. The absolute layout is bit different than stack one. If you have studied some basic data structure such as stack, you must be knowing something like this. You put an element inside, and after that you pop it up, something like that only. Now, relative layout is my favorite because this makes things really easy for you. You can connect all the components side by side. Let's move forward with the presentation, and let's talk about linear layout because this is the very building block. This layout is used to arrange the elements in a linear fashion. One element per line is referred to as linear manner. Means, just as I gave you an example, a picture, a text, a button. This is a linear layout. On Android, this layout generates various types of forms. These elements are arranged top to bottom in this case. So there are two kinds of orientation. One is vertical and one is horizontal. You must be knowing the meaning of these, but still I would like to tell you in detail that vertical orientation, as you can see above, the widgets such as text view are all oriented vertically. But but if you do horizontally, you know things would go something like right to left or up to down. Let's talk about relative layout, one of my favorite. This layout is used to specify the position of the elements in relation to the other elements present. Means in linear layout, you define like a stack. Okay, this element on top, hence it would be at top. Second would be below it, so it would be at the second position. Now in relative layout, you don't define that. You take one element and according to that element, you define another. Then the other element would be defined on the basis of second element, something like this. So align the positions of the elements to the parent container is possible in relative layout, and that is why it's my favorite. In order to define this particular manner, we write true for Android align parent top, true for Android align parent left, something like this. Means you have defined a parent element. If you want that particular second element to be at the right or left or top or below, you can put true, false, something like that. And it would be so easy that you have defined a parent element. You don't need to again and again define particular position of that event. You have defined that this particular element would be in center. Now other elements would be either at top, left, something like that. You don't need to define a proper stack for this. So if we want to be aligned with another element in the same container, we can do something like as following. We can definitely do Android layout align left, below, and the elements to the left or the other element. So let's talk about recycler view. So recycler views are very famous topic when it comes to front end development in Android. Recycler view makes it simple to display a large amount of data in an efficient manner. You can't always rely on the layouts because it would make the coding part, even the functional part, very complicated. You provide the data and define how each item should be look. And recycler view library dynamically creates the elements as needed. Now, as the name implies, recycler recycles those individual elements. Recycler view does not destroy an element's view or when it scrolls off the screen. You can imagine something like this. You have defined 1 to 80 counting. Now at once, only 10 elements can be displayed at screen. So what it does is it dynamically stores it. Whenever you do something like this, you scroll above, those particular places are replaced by below ones. So this is how dynamically it stores it. Now if any one of you is a fond of DSA and has done a dynamic programming, you must be knowing how it is storing the elements. This reuse grades improves the performance, making our more responsive and consuming less power and memory. Now let's talk about how you can the steps for implementing a recycler view. So there are a few things you must do before you can use recycler view. They will be discussed in depth as the section you are seeing follows. First and foremost, decide how the list or grid will look. Normally, you will be able to use one of the standard layout managers provided by the recycler view library. You are done with that. Create a design for each element separately. Not don't do not make those designs at same place. It would make things complicated, including how it would look and behave. Now extend a view holder class based on this design, and your view holder version includes all the functionality for your list items. Your view holder is a container for a view, something like this, which is managed by recycler view. Now define this adapter that contains your data to the view holder views. There are also advanced customizations that allows you to customize your recycler view to your exact specifications. You don't need to rely on Android libraries always. You can define your own customizations and go for it, because every Android application, according to Google, has different thoughts and can make a change. Now, the navigation between screens. You often see that whenever you click on particular button or you slide out, you go to a particular different page. This is known as navigation in Android applications. And Android navigation between screens can be done in is like a whole life cycle. You can for that you need to study four things: collections in Kotlin, activities and intents, test navigation, and the states of the activity lifecycle. Now let's start with collections in Kotlin. If you have studied Java, Kotlin is just like Java, introduced the concept of collections. A collection typically contains a number of objects of the same type, which are referred to as items in the collection. So the Kotlin standard library includes a comprehensive set of tools for managing collections. Now you can see Kotlin is so beautiful that it has got a Kotlin standard library. C++ has got us STL. And similarly, the power of Java, C++, and Python make it so beautiful. Now, there are two types of collections, that is immutable and mutable. Now, coming to the immutable collection, it means that it supports only read-only functions and cannot be modified its element. Immutable collections and their corresponding methods are as following. You can see a list, set, or map. Now, if you have studied Java, you know set works similarly. You can see in the following example that when we this particular example has been done on Kotlin Playground. If you don't know about Kotlin Playground, I would recommend you to go and watch my previous video in which we both have talked about how things can be done in Kotlin Playground. Now you defined a variable, that is val, inside which you defined a list. And you see defining list in Kotlin is so easy. You just need to like write list of and just define it. Now you give a this would give you a compile error if you run immutable list dot add Praveen. Why it is giving? Because you can't add anything more once you have declared an immutable string. That is immutable list. Why? Because it is a immutable thing. Now coming to the part that how things work in other phases, that is mutable. You look at it support both read and write. What happens in immutable? You can only read. Means you can only type of read. You cannot edit it, but you can here write also. Mutable corrections and the corresponding methods are as following. You just need to do list set map and set them as mutable. Now if you look at this example where mutable map has been specified, that this is a mutable map and you can put elements inside it and even read them. So what happens? Something like this. This is mutable and this is immutable. In mutable you can read and write both, but in immutable you can only read, you cannot write inside it. So let's move to activities and intents. So an explicit intent is a highly specific where you know the exact activity to be launched often in your app. If you look at an application, whenever you click anything, you must be getting some idea that okay, this particular action would be taken by this app, by this button. So this is intent, is an object representing some action to be performed. You can just imagine a button to calculate. That is intent. The most common, but not certainly only, use of an intent is to launch an activity. That's very obvious. And there are two types of intent, that is implicit and explicit. Now, often for coming to the common and diverse part, the often for presenting activities from another app or system feature is for implicit, but for explicit you generally your own apps activities. Now this particular that is implicit takes action for other applications, but this explicit is like internal application only. Now both of them share one thing, describes the request, not the actual result. So now let's look at the activity life cycle. So every application has some activities because the what is the work of intent to make an activity. So every activity has what is known as a life cycle. This is an allusion to plant and animal life cycles. If you have studied in science, like the life cycle of this of a butterfly, the different states of butterfly shows its growth from birth to fully adulthood to death. Similar in life cycle, you start an activity, it proceeds, it can get paused, it would proceed, it would reach the result, and it would eventually die. Similarly, the activity life cycle is made of different states that an activity can go through. From the activity it is first initialized, when it is to the part where it is finally destroyed and its memory is reclaimed by the system. You give particular memory to the system for this activity. When that activity is done, you reclaim that memory. So as the user starts your app, navigates between your screens, your activities navigates inside and outside of your app, the activity changes state. The diagram you can see shows all the activities life cycle states. As their name indicates, these activity represents the status of your activity. You can see the resumed, started, created, initialized, destroyed, something like this. I have read it in I guess wrong order. You first initialize an activity, that is on create. Once created, on start or on restart, it is started, it is resumed, it is paused, it is stopped, it is on destroy. These are the whole activity life cycle. If you have studied some basic science, this is the same activity as a human body. Often you want to change some behavior or run some code when the activity lifecycle changes. Therefore, the activity class itself and any subclass of activity such as app compact activity implement a set of lifecycle callback methods. I know it's getting a bit complex here, but don't worry, Dhruv would explain you all in detail when it comes to code. Android invokes these callbacks when the activity moves from one state to another, and you can override those methods in your own activities. So, this is it from my side. Now, I would request Dhruv to take over from here and explain everything in practical in detail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vishesh. Can you go to the next slide once?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So thank you, Vishesh, for explaining everything in detail about material design, layouts, and whatnot. So now it comes to the practical part of the session. Like now we need to build our own Android app. Like this will be your second Android app basically. And in this, it will be a multi-screen alphabets app. Like you will have a layout. Basically, we'll be using relative recycler view and relative layout in this as we did in the previous session. And we'll be having beautiful material design card views, and when you click on the image you will go on to the next activity, and words related to that letter, that alphabet letter will come in the next activity. So this is basically our app for today, and let me just share my screen and see. mm, is the screen visible? Can you confirm once? Is my
So the
screen
GitHub,
visible?
yeah, yes, Dhruv, your screen is visible.
Okay, so now is this is the GitHub repo for our app. Like if you have any doubts you can go to this page. You can find the link in the description. So I guess we can start then. Just a second. We can. Uh, I'll
The
share my
link
screen
to
once
this,
again.
yeah, the link for the GitHub link for the application we are going to build today is in the comment section. So I mean the chat section. You can all go and see the link from there and just and start playing with us only.
Okay, so now I'll share my screen once again and see. For now, we'll work with the Android Studio thing.
Yeah,
Is Android Studio visible, right?
yeah, Dhruv, it's visible. You can start.
Okay. So basically, now we need. Now this is. I just created a basic app, basic project for making this application. Now what you need to do is, like, we need some alphabet and letters, right? So one thing is that whenever you need anything to code, basically hard code or text to display, you need value, you need to put them in the values folder and in the strings.xml file. Everything related to text and strings are, generally it's a good practice to store them in the strings.xml file. So for now, I'll be just copy pasting this strings alphabets like this. These are just hard coded things, and th- this is, I'm for now. I'm just taking till J. Like, yeah, I'm not going to do the 26 alphabets. Just till J for now, which are just 10. Like, give you a basic idea. Another thing that we need is we need an array of the words that we are going to put with A. Like for A, we have arrays, we have affirmations, we have alphabets starting with the letter A. For B, we have boy, ball. Similarly with CD. So for that, we also need an arrays XML file as well. So to create a new XML file in the resource folder, just right click on values, go to new, and click on values resource file. So the file name related to this would be give arrays .xml, and we are good to go. That's it. And for now, I have a list prepared with me for the all the resources and items that we need for this array. Basically, these are just words. As you can see, I'll just be copy pasting these. Okay, let me take it till O only. That is good. That would be enough. All right. You need to add the closing bracket as well for the strings array. Now let's create another activity in which we'll be putting the detail view. So one thing to note is that whenever, like, for creating a new activity, you need to uh, go to the package in which your main activity is there. So you right click and then go to activity, and then click here. We'll choose empty activity for now, and I'll be giving this details activity. It is still showing error, so just rectify it. Yep. Till our activity is getting created and the Gradle sync is on. Hmm. So now our resource files are ready, our activity is ready. We have all the layouts with us, basically the details activity layout and the main activity layout. So now let's work on the main activity layout. So in main activity layout, last time, if you remember, we used the constraint layout. So now we won't be using the constraint layout, because constraint layout is used when you need to, constraint your views and you have multiple views along with it. So what you can do is we'll use the frame layout. So basically frame layout is simpler and it has a single child with it, and it converts everything into a frame. So we'll use the frame layout. So to convert, like when you are changing layouts, just use the client chart XML file and try putting the frame layout. You can see everything is perfect. And now I'll remove this text view. And with this, we'll be needing a recycler view, as I just told. So what you can do is either you can code the recycler view yourself in the XML file, or you can drag and drop this recycler view here, as I just did. Now let me just zoom in and show you that whenever you put a user recycler view, everything comes in items and in lists. So that is for why we are using recycler view for now. And then everything when comes into list, then it can adapt to whatever we want. So in this case we'll be needing an image view button, and we'll be using a text with it. So these will adapt according to the list format in the recycler view. So now let's just give some attributes and properties to this recycler view. So first and foremost is always try giving an ID to it. Like give an ID recycler view to our recycler view, because we'll be finding it in our main activities. Let the layout width be match parent and height be match parent. Another thing is that we'll be needing scrolling effect in it. To put that scrolling effect in our list items of recycler view, just use scroll bars, and we'll use vertical with it because it is the orientation is vertical. And another thing is use the layout manager to manage your layout in a way that it is materialistically feasible to us. To do this, you need to type app.layout manager, and then we'll use a linear layout with it, because we need a linear thing with it. So now I'll just show you the design, and as you can see, we have a recycler view. So that was the layout of our main activity. Now now we need another layout, which is the list item. Now for each item which we are going to display, we need another layout for it. This makes our app more easy to display. Like we don't need to create an item again and again in the main activity. We are just creating a list, a single view which we'll put in the list. So we'll create another layout for it, and uh, I'll give it a name list underscore item. So let's just start working with it. So for list view item, what we have is first and foremost, we are again not going to use the constraint layout. What we are going to do is we are going to take a help from the material design what we learned right now. So we are going to use the material design card view with it. So material design card view, I'll just search, and that will be our entire layout. Hmm. I'll say, yeah. So as you can see, this one. So whenever in Android Studio, whenever you type, you'll get suggestions. So you can choose from the suggestions. So in this, I'm going to choose material card dot material card view, and let it be there. Another thing is that for this, we don't need the height to match parent. We need height according to our content. Like whatever the content is, only that amount of space we require. So we'll write wrap content this time. Another thing is that you can give a margin to your layout. Basically, I'm going to give it 8 dp. These are just some UI polishing techniques which we are using right now. And now our material card view is ready. Next we need is a linear layout to have our images and text with it. So I'm again going to choose a linear layout. For width, I'm going to choose match parent, and for height, I'm going to use the wrap content. And the orientation would be vertical. Now, in this linear layout, we need two more things. One is the image. means image we are using as a button, which will be image view button, and the text along with it to display all the alphabets in that text box. So if you are familiar with the last session, we talked about image views, text views. So we are going to use that thing in it. So I'm just going to use the image view button, as you can see, and the width would be another match parent, and height would be wrap content. And basically also what we can do is we can give it by ourselves. I am giving it 196 dp. That would be sufficient, I guess. And another thing which we can do is we can give an alignment to it. So alignment can be anything like center or center crop, related to how we want the image to fit inside the button. So basically, as you can say, now we'll scale the image in the scale type, and I'm going it as fit center, like to fit the entire image to the center of the button. So that's why we are using this property. And another thing could be to use is important for accessibility, like do you want this image to be accessible or not. So that we want, so important for accessibility, and we are going to write no, like we don't want this image to go outside of the scroll view. So that is the main purpose of adding this. Another thing which we forgot was to give an id to it. So let's give an id because we need to refer this, and I'm going to give it as image underscore button. That's it, we have our image button. Now we need a text view as well. So this is the text view. Width would be match parent and height would be wrap content for now. And what we can do is, last time also we chose the uh, font size and all, and I'm not going to do it right now. You can make use of it in your application. I'm just going to give a padding to it, because so that each text box has a padding with the image view button and with the next view with it. So how we are going to do is, I'm just going to give a padding of 16 dp with it. And another thing is give an id as well. And what we can give id to this is a text view. Okay. So now our list item is also ready. Another thing what we can do is, now our first part of the layout session is ready. Now another thing is, what we can do is we can have a details activity. Like in the details activity, which is the second activity of our app, in which we need to show each and every what we can say, all the words when it comes. So let's design that activity also right now. So this is our activity. As you can see, it is the details activity. So for details activity, what I'm going to do is, we are going to use another, we are going to again use, we are not going to use constraint layout once again. We are going to use linear layout, and we are going to have a list view inside it. So this is another type of view, that is a list view, to display the list of all the words. So how we are going to do this, just again, just remove the constraint layout. We are not going to use the constraint layout in this. We have talked about constraint layout already. So we'll choose linear layout, and we'll give the orientation to it as vertical. Another thing is, now we need a list view with it to display our list. So list view can be match parent, the width of the list view, and the height needs to be wrap content according to the list that we are getting, like the amount of the items that we are getting. If there are 3 items, then the height occupied by the list view should be 3 itself, not more than it, not more than that. And another thing is given id. So I'm going to give it as list view. So our list view is also ready. Next thing is, we need a text also to, now we don't need a text with it. Now we need it. Now in this we will not be needing a text. We'll be creating another list view item as we did for the main activity, so that we can in the future, if we want that the list item has any other view with it, so we are not going to always disturb this activity layout. We are going to use that particular layout resource file. So again, we'll create a new resource file, layout resource file, and we'll give it a name as details item. All right. So in this details item, we need a text view with it. So we'll not be using a constraint layout for now because we just need a text view. So the text view will help us enough. So I'm removing this all. Now I'm just using a text view. The layout width should be according like filling the parent, which is nothing but how much the how much does the parent occupy. Similar, same to as match parent. One thing which you might see is we are getting an error. Now, why are we getting an error? Because we are not using the schema according to the Android Studio, and it is unable to recognize that which text view this is. So we need to copy and paste this schema part, these three lines. Now, if we see and give a layout, and now I can give in as fill parent, and another thing I can give is Android, and now I'm going to use the layout height, and again I'm going to use the fill parent. As you can see, all our errors are gone, and now I'm again going to modify it and polish our UI for it, and I'm going to give it a padding of 10 dp, and I'm also going to increase the text size for it. Last time we saw the text size to you in the attributes panel, but this time I'm just coding it out, and text size would be 16 dip once again. And another thing is the text style. So text style is similar to basically bold, italic, or normal, so I'm giving it bold. So this is our text view. So for now our layouts are all ready. Now let me show you the design. So activity.main has a recycler view with all the items, as you can see, and this is the layout for it. And the for the details activity, the design view is like this, showing all the items. As you can see, the list view is showing all the items, item 1, item 2, and then we have text view a text view as well for the for our details item, and this is the list view for our uh, main activity. As you can see, we have an image button and we have a text along with it. So for, I guess for this session we can have till the layout part, and in the next session we can continue with the coding part of this, because we are kind of running short on time right now. So but the entire code for this project we'll have it in the session 3. And one more thing is that you can find the attendance form for this session in the link in the chat. And I guess that for now we'll start we have seen how the views work and how the resource file works. In the next part we'll convert the adapter, like how to make give intents from one activity to the another, and see how this details activity would basically work. I guess that would be good for now, because we are running short on time.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. And you would, as Dhruv told, you would find all the links even in the chat box and in the description section.
Yeah.
So thank you.